Okay, we're going to start now. Please sit down so the cameras can catch me. And welcome everybody who's online. You can send your comments via our Twitter feed, hashtag SIANI17, and we will respond to them during the meeting. Welcome to the rest of you who actually made it here in person this lovely day in January in Stockholm. We're very happy to have this taking place today and to have so many of our different sectors represented. We have private sector, civil society, government, academia, students. You're academia too, but you're special. And who else did I forget? Yeah, okay. We have everybody we can think of, and people here from Kuylenstierna to Umeå in Sweden have agreed to join us, which we're very happy about. SIANI has traditionally had a lot of openness for member input, and your input today, which will come when we have the roundtable dialogues, that's why you're all seated at different places here, so that we have a good mix of people at each table. Academics, count to 3 before you say anything, because we usually have a lot of academics very happy to talk. And we need to hear everyone today. I'm an academic too, so I mean, and an economist. I'm the worst of the worst. So the program today will consist of some background presentations before we go into the dialogue, which is really the point of the day. We will have first up will be a panel discussion on the 2030 agenda, which will be moderated by Maria Göthberg. You can wave, Maria. She's at our partner organization, Focali, which is a forestry research network. Then our communications officer will give us an overview of where SIANI is now in terms of membership, geographical spread, etc. And we have an input today from one of our expert groups, the expert group in Kenya. Stephen Bundi Mungula, Stephen, you can wave. Who's the lead junior professional there, will be giving us a talk about commercializing agriculture in Kenya. And then right before you break into groups, Matthew Fielding, our communications manager, will present SIANI 3. We're now in as of 1st of December, we're in our 3rd phase, and the 2030 agenda and the plans for 2017. These are the basic outline for our activities. However, we have a lot of room for input, and in the past, things we have not planned at the Secretariat, for example, our youth initiative, have come from the annual members meeting. So don't feel that you don't have to contribute so that we get a better program for 2017. All right. With that said, I think the panel members should come up, and Maria, I will give you the microphone.
Okay, hi everyone, can you hear me? Okay, thank you for the introduction, Melinda. I'm Maria Göthberg and I work with Focali, the Forest Climate and Livelihood Research Network. And we have gathered here today to talk about SIANI 3, and right now we're supposed to talk about SIANI 3 and the 2030 agenda, challenges and opportunities ahead. And to do that, we have 3 people in the panel that would like to come up here, stand at this table. We have Johan Kuylenstierna, first up here, who's the Executive Director at SEI, the Stockholm Environment Institute. We also have Karin Oskarsson, who's the Program Manager and SIANI's Desk Officer at Sida. She's working at the Unit for Global Economy and Environment. And then we have Ola Möller, who's the Senior Policy Specialist in Agriculture on Sida. So, as Melinda said, we're just entering the 3rd phase, which we're very excited about. We were established in 2008, and we have been at SEI since 2009. And we have, over the years, grown into a pretty large network. We have 1,700 members at the moment, which feels like a very fantastic number for us. And yeah, some of you are sitting here in the audience today, which is very nice. And during this third phase, SIANI will continue to act as a neutral platform where discussions on sustainable agriculture and food security can be held. And the platform is also used to explore and establish collaborations between different sectors of society where progress can be made towards achieving the world's new development agenda, the Agenda 2030. But I would like to know, maybe we can start with Johan. You've been working alongside with SIANI for many years. What is, in your opinion, our most important contribution to the work on reaching sustainable agriculture and food security in developing countries?
Thanks a lot. And it's so nice to see everyone here, really. This is a broad membership. And I think in itself, this is actually one of the success stories. Of course, when you start an initiative, you consider various things. What quite often happens is that as an organization, you get an initiative, and what you try to do is, of course, to build, a critical mass of people and build it as large as possible within your own organization. That has not happened, which I think is one of the successes of SIANI. SIANI has really been about gathering different competences and addressing critical food security issues, really using the broad network and competence that we have in Sweden and connecting it to international actors and international processes. And that, an example of this success we see here in this room today. How many are from SEI in here? Okay, good. And how many are not from SEI? Exactly. So this is actually one of the success stories of SIANI, I would argue. The question is broader, though. I mean, you're basically saying what has Sweden contributed to global food security and the global food security efforts. Well, maybe not enough. That's for sure. I think that in terms of the broader issue, looking at global food security and understanding food security in a global context, Sweden is not a key driver today. I think we have a lot to do. I do believe, however, that SIANI has made a contribution in that direction. Maybe the most important thing, really, increasing the understanding and the connection between Sweden and the role Sweden has, and the role Swedish actors have, and the international arena, you could say. If we go back many years, and of course we are not fully successful in this, but if we go back a few years, many years before SIANI, you could see that we have a lot of critical actors on this, working on their arenas. I mean, you take the civil society, for instance, if you take the private sector, if you take research from different strands, but we have not worked effectively together. And this, I think, has been a great weakness. This is what I think has been the most important contribution of SIANI for the time being. If you try to measure impact, direct impact, it's much more difficult. That's always a challenge. And this is something we, of course, work a lot with Sida, who is the key funders, because they want to see what are the primary impacts. There we still have quite a lot to do, I would argue, to measure this real impact. One thing I believe, there are two areas where I believe Sweden can contribute, and to a certain extent has contributed also through the way we work in SIANI, is inclusiveness. How do you work across many different stakeholders, sometimes with very different perspectives? And I think SIANI has contributed there, which is really key. The second thing I believe is a strong area in Sweden, and where I think SIANI has contributed, is to focus on governance, key governance for food systems. And that is also an area that I hope to expand in the future in SIANI, but I really think we have also contributed quite a lot over the past couple of years.
Thank you. And from Sida, we have Karin, who's, if Johan's been working along SIANI for many years. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Karin has just started last year, right, being our desk officer. Yeah. So during this time, how do you feel when you learn about SIANI? What do you think is our important contribution?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm also, as Johan said, happy to see such a variety of participants here and the members that you also represent different parts of society. I would say, as Johan said, I won't repeat it, but this contribution to the international ongoing dialogue. So, and then you put it very well. And one thing that you said when you turned to me is that how do we measure impact? And that, I just want to come back to that, because that is where you as members really have an important role, that you report back when you work in the partner countries, that you report back to SIANI. What have you done? What are the impacts that you can see in the countries from the work that SIANI has done?
Yeah. Ulla, would you like to fill in on that, or?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for inviting me also to take part in both this panel and this meeting. I'm very happy to see so many participants as well. Well, I could add two small things to what Anders and Karin has said. I agree completely with what they said. Oh, sorry. Okay, I agree completely with what the previous speakers. I get such a bad back. But I could add. Thank you. Yeah, I could add two things. First of all, a bit more general comment, and then one more from a Sida perspective. I think one very important area of importance that SIANI has been working with the last couple of years is the issue about youth. To involve young people in this very, very important issue of rural development. How shall we produce all this food that we need in the future? We all know that we need to increase it and at the same time turn it into sustainable production. And the young people is sort of the key to solve this problem. And that's why I think it's very, very important and very appreciated that SIANI has been working so much focused with the issue about youth the last number of years. From a Sida perspective, I think SIANI has slowly but steadily raised the issues and in one way force Sida to more and more appreciate and acknowledge the fact that we can't forget about rural development. We can't forget about the poor people living in these marginalized areas. We can't forget about food production. We can't forget about natural resources, agriculture, forestry, aquaculture, and so on. It's very easy, now I'm a bit provocative maybe, also against my employer, that to follow new fancy areas of interest, areas in fashion to work with. Rural development and agriculture can be seen as yesterday's development cooperation, but it's still so important. And I think SIANI has contributed to keep the issue about rural development, poverty eradication, agriculture from a broad perspective as a topic for discussion at Sida, and that I'm very happy about.
Yeah. Well, in SIANI's third phase, we will concentrate on those areas of agriculture and food production that are needed to achieve sustainability, foster economic growth, and for small-scale producers, and ensure food security in low-income countries. And when we're relating SIANI's new phase to Agenda 2030, it's pretty clear that we're working a lot with SDG 2. Which is ending hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. So considering the themes, like the thematic work that we already do, and the activities that we have, are there some additional themes or questions that you would like us to see us work more with to be even more in line with Agenda 2030, or make the work that we do stronger and more efficient? Johan, maybe you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, first to say, I think one aspect, and this is maybe a detail, I think it's really good that we are moving away from the fact to see SIANI as an initiative and really as an investment, a long-term investment from Sida and hopefully eventually from other actors. But also, it is an investment from a lot of other actors who are engaged in SIANI already today. This is important because the agenda we are referring to, Agenda 2030, is of course a long-term agenda. It will likely go beyond 2030. We will likely not have reached really everything by 2030. I think there will be other aspects coming up. That is a key thing, I would argue. Well, if there are other activities, that's always hard to say. I think that you could cut the cake in so many different ways, and I don't want to go into details, but a few perspectives only that I think will be key when we move forward as SIANI, but also through the initiatives. One is really to keep that core of SIANI operating evidence-based, which we are also arguing that we are doing. This is a very controversial area. Food security, agriculture, there are so many opinions. And I think, you know, being an evidence-based organization really founded in science is key for SIANI to continue. And I think that is going to be critical for all the working groups to consider that. It's a narrow balance, and I think they have balanced it very well between becoming an advocate and being evidence and science-based. But this is also, you know, a reflection of the diversity of members we have. The second thing is really to continue focus on everything we do to get the knowledge out. So that is key. It's not a science organization writing papers. It's getting the knowledge out and getting it to actors that can make a difference, which are quite often outside the agri-sector. So taking a food systems perspective in a broader sense, I think, will be absolutely critical. And looking at SDG, not to get stuck in SDG 2. Remember that it is a universal, interlinked agenda. I mean, if you go to 12.3, for instance, SDG 12.3, it's about food waste. So we have to really look at it in a broader sense. We have to be careful not to focus only on SDG 2 because it becomes too much poverty-oriented in that case, and we really have to take the broad agenda. And the final point, I think it would be interesting if potentially one part of SIANI, a working group, could look more into how we could link to the Paris agenda, and especially the NDCs, National Determined Contributions. And we talked with Sida about this before also. In the NDCs, agriculture is a key component. There will be huge investments there because it links to climate, and I think we have tremendous opportunities really to link the different agendas here. So that I would like to see maybe even stronger in the SIANI 3.
Working group with NDC is interesting. Karin or Ola, do you want to fill in?
Yeah. Maybe not adding to a specific theme, but in a broader perspective, I agree with what Johan said, that SIANI has made a name for being an organization that provides information and knowledge that is evidence-based, and that is important to keep that. And for this phase 3, some sort of key messages from Sida would be that the focus of SIANI should be food security for poverty reduction, and that gender equality should be included in all activities that SIANI do. And SIANI does. And that might be a slight change, but we have to have that bear that in mind and have that as a focus, and to think that sort of SIANI focus is, or objectives is not to sort of capacitate the Swedish resource base. That could be a means to achieve the objectives, but it's not the objective. And also, that also means that the importance to have a clear link to developing countries in all of SIANI's work. And also, US members really have an important role, as I said initially, in this, and Johan also mentioned it, in this conveying of knowledge and in information generated by SIANI out to the international arena, and also when you work in the countries where you work and where you capture sort of ideas, needs from the countries, that you take that back to SIANI, so that there is an exchange of knowledge and information between the countries and well, Sweden then. And also, finally, I think it is important to work, as Johan also said, with the whole food chain, and it would be interesting also to maybe see an increased, I don't know how to put it, participation. Well, to work also with the private sector, like the food sector, I could say.
Industry, well, maybe?
Food industry, yeah. So that, I think that would be interesting to see too.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe last question for Ola then, who's working with rural development issues at Sida. So do you think that SIANI has been like linking in, feeding into the work that Sida does, or is there more to it? Is there more that we can do to have a good cooperation?
But I think
working with the same type of issues.
what SIANI has done so far is very good. So of course I expect a lot more from you. Joking aside, yes, I think what SIANI has been doing very well is to show that agriculture is not a sector on its own, so to say. It's not a small, narrow area of interest for a certain people working with a specific area, not in any connection with other areas. I think what SIANI has been doing very well during the phases that you have been working is to show the importance of integrating different aspects of development from the poverty perspective. And that's completely right on spot with Sida's perspective that we should always take the poor people's perspective on development. Yeah. And my only comment would be that continue to do that, because I think that is the way to solve problems. That poor people, we also look at their rights, their health, and their environment, to take a landscape approach, both in physical terms as well as in social terms and so on.
Sounds like we have a lot more to do. So I think our time is up, but thank you for coming here and sharing your thoughts, and I believe you have inspired us to develop SIANI even further.